Welcome to the Happy Yuppie Podcast.
Hello, Yuppies! Welcome to another episode of the Happy Yuppie Podcast. My name is Mighty Rasing, and this is the podcast dedicated to helping you pursue your calling, engage the world, and sustain your life. Well, it's another episode, dear Yuppies, and we are nearing the end of 2014. So how is your year so far? You still have a month exactly to maximize your 2014, no? But I'm sure that by this time you are evaluating your 2014. You are getting ready to plan for your 2015. And, well, by the way, medyo pagpasensyahan nyo na yung boses ko, no? I still have some colds at this time of year. But in any case, in this episode, we will talk about how to evaluate your year. So, how did your year go? Did you have a lot of successes? Marami ba kayong achievements this year? Or meron din kayong mga several missteps, mistakes, and some regrets? Ano? So, that's what we are going to talk about today. But, before that, I have a couple of announcements. If you've been following my Facebook timeline or the Pinoy Yuppie Facebook page and the Pinoy Yuppie Connection Facebook group, then you know that I have released 2 books this year. The first one is My Powers Ka to Be Super Epic, which was published by OMF Literature. It's now available in all major bookstores nationwide. So if you want to go to National Bookstore or to Philippine Christian Bookstore, even at Fully Booked and at Power Books. So that book is already available there. So it's entitled My Powers Ka to Be Super Epic. And what is this book all about? It's like a personal development book for teenagers, high school students, college students, and even for 20-something young professionals. It's written in conversational Taglish, although mas maraming Tagalog kesa English. But I think the interesting thing with this book is that it uses superheroes as a backdrop for discussing principles of leadership, of personal development. So just to give you an example, yung chapter 1 is all about Spider-Man. So it's like the chapter title is Great Powers Equals Great Responsibility. The second chapter is Train for Action. At si Batman naman yung ginamit na backdrop for that. Yung chapter 3, it's like flame on pero wag ma-burnout. Ginamit ko naman na metaphor dyan is Johnny Storm, or more commonly known as the Human Torch. He's a member of the Fantastic Four. And then chapter 4, it's Aim Then Fire. Ito naman si Cyclops of the X-Men. Chapter 5, it's Assemble Your Team. At ang superhero na ginamit ko na illustration dito sa chapter na to, it's Nick Fury, the person behind the Avengers Initiative. Diba? And then chapter 6, Smash the Problem, Not the People. And ito ay tungkol sa conflict management. And yung ginamit ko namang superhero dito, it's the Incredible Hulk. I talk about conflict management, especially in the context of a team. And lastly, yung chapter 7, it's mag-ingat sa kryptonite, or iwasan ang kryptonite. Ang ginamit ko naman dito, it's, well, you guessed it, sino ba ang may weakness na kryptonite? It's Superman. So, if you are thinking of buying gifts for teenagers, for college students, high school students, then I think that this book is totally appropriate for them. At marami silang matututunan dito, I guarantee you. And this only costs 75 pesos, diba? My other book, it's called, the title is Start Up, Find Your Place, Engage the World, Sustain Your Life. And probably this is more applicable for you yuppies out there. And this one, it's like a career guidance book for new college graduates and new young professionals. So, if you are still trying to discover ano ba talaga yung calling mo, what do you really want to do with your life, swak na swak yung book na to. And it also discusses about different ways to engage the world, whether you want to become an employee, an entrepreneur, or what I call the social servant. So that's the different ways to engage the world. And lastly, the book also talks about how to sustain your life. And by life, I don't mean, like the financial aspect lang. In the book, I talk about the dilemma of breadwinners, di ba? So, I'm sure marami sa inyo na mga young professionals are already supporting some brothers and sisters go to college or high school. At yung iba sa inyo, I'm sure, nagbibigay sa parents for one purpose or another, di ba? Ito yung book na para sa inyo. It helps you discover your calling, choose the path for your career and for your life work, and lastly, it deals with matters of a little bit on personal finance, a little bit on relationships, and all that. So if you want to grab a copy, just go to startupbookonline.com. Available na tong book na to sa Philippine Christian bookstores. We're still working on distributing it through National Bookstore, Fully Booked, and the other major bookstores nationwide. But I will definitely let you know if it's already available there. So for now, just go to startupbookonline.com, and if you go to our website, pinoyyuppie.com, you will notice it at the right sidebar of the website. Alright? And, well, medyo napahaba na yung introduction, but I just have one more announcement for you. If you don't want to use Stitcher or iTunes or Apple products for listening to podcasts, don't worry. Our podcasts are now available at youtube.com. So, kung gusto lang ninyo na i-on yung YouTube and listen to our podcast while working or while doing whatever, di ba, at home or in the office, pwede na ninyong puntahan ang ating YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/Pinoy Yuppie. That's PINOYYUPPIE. So that's youtube.com/Pinoy Yuppie. And don't worry, we are posting all these links at our show notes. Just go to pinoyyuppie.com/039. That's pinoyyuppie.com/039. So much for announcements. Ang dami-daming announcements this time. But you can still enjoy the Happy Yuppie podcast at Stitcher and iTunes. Just go to pinoyyuppie.com/Stitcher, STITCHER. And by the way, I'm an Android smartphone user, so that's my app of choice. Now, if you are using Apple products, just go to pinoyyuppie.com/iTunes. Pwede na kayong mag-subscribe doon. Alright? So, without further ado, ito yung ating episode for today. It's a solo episode, by the way, so I hope hindi pa kayo nagsasawa sa boses ko. But, again, thank you so much for listening. It means so much to me. I appreciate you, and I hope na marami kayong natututunan dito. And, kung may mga episodes na natuwa kayo or marami kayong na-pick up, di ba? Why don't you shoot me an email? I mean, nagre-reply ako, and although may utang pa ako dun sa ibang mga nag-email, but I mean, utang in the sense na I promised to write a blog post, like there's this guy who asked something about his career, about his direction. But don't worry, I'll get to that before the year ends, okay? I have some plans for this year, before this year ends, and also we will have other surprises for you come 2015. Alright? So, for this episode, ito yung pag-uusapan natin. We are talking about evaluating your year. So, how did it go so far? Are you full of frustrations or natutuwa kayo sa year na to? Or, are you just, may buntong hininga ba kayo saying, I just want to get this over with. Gusto ko mag 2015 na so that I can start anew. But you know what? Before you can even start anew, we need to evaluate this year so that we can learn the lessons from this year and take it with us in the coming year. Okay? So, I have listed several questions for you to answer just so you could evaluate your 2014. So, here are the questions. So, ready na ba kayo? If you want, you can take some pen and paper at mag-take notes. But don't worry, we have our show notes. Just go to pinoyyuppie.com/039. Okay? So, are you ready with the questions? So, ito. Here's the first question for you to ask to evaluate this year. Did I meet expectations? did I meet expectations? And when I mean expectations, ito yung mga commitments that you made this year. Do you even know all the commitments that you made this year? Siyempre, one of your major commitments ay yung commitment to your work. So why don't you go back to your contract or your job descriptions? I-review mo yung mga each piece of job listed in your contract or your job description. So how well did you fulfill each expectation? So marami, no, especially among BPO companies, merong performance review at the end of the year. So did you do that already? Ako dun sa boss ko, no, because I also have a full-time work, if you're not aware, by the way. We went through this performance form which we've been doing for the past 5 years na nasa discipleship ministries ako, and we use, what you call this, is this the Richter? No, it's not the Richter scale, but it's the 5-point scale that's being used for this performance review. So if you go back to your job description, and then you can assess yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. And ito yung ibig sabihin ng mga scale na to, no? 1, it's significantly below expectations. Number 2, below expectations. Yung 3 means that you met expectations. 4, it's above expectations. And number 5, ito yung usual na rating, no? Pinakamataas na rating na ibinibigay. It's significantly above expectations. So, if you have your contract or your job descriptions with you, don't overrate yourself. Kasi I'm sure na yung supervisor mo would know if you are just trying to pad your performance review. Well, sa totoo lang, if you ask me, it may be better to err a little bit on the side of underrating. Medyo mas okay na i-underrate mo yung sarili mo a little bit, unless you are extremely confident that you can justify a significantly above expectations, no? So, well, if you are confident naman that you really met the expectations, then by all means, ilagay mo yung 3, no? Circle the number 3. But if you surpassed expectations and alam mo naman that you have delivered well and above what is expected from you, then by all means, ilagay mo yung 4. Okay? So just be as honest as possible. Pero for every rating that you put, then make sure na kaya mo namang i-justify yun, ano? So just also be realistic. Just get additional data. Ano ba yung mga ginawa mo this year? Which leads us to our second question. So what have you accomplished this year? So kung na-assess mo na yung sarili mo, na ito yung mga expectations, nagawa ko yung mga expectations from me, no? The second question is, what have I accomplished so far? Meron bang mga special project na inassign sa'yo? Did you solve a problem for your company or for your life? If you are in sales, go back to the deals that you closed. Are they average accounts or are those big deals, no? So, this is applicable hindi lang sa mga employees, pero dun sa mga entrepreneurs din and business owners. So, you just need to list down every bit of accomplishment this year. Even yung mga small ones and the earth-shaking ones, no? And this could also be applied to your personal life. Ano na ba yung mga na-accomplish mo? Did you have any personal project this year? This year, nag-target ka ba na makabili ng I don't know, maybe a better computer for yourself or a house? Tinarget mo ba yan? Parang laki-laki ng project na yun, ano? But did you meet that project? And then, how about your finances, diba? So, what have you accomplished in terms of your finances? Did you increase your savings account or have you started investing? So, those are the types of accomplishments that you are probably looking for in this year. It would also be good if ilagay mo yung different areas ng buhay mo, no? So, you could say mental and intellectual development. What have you done in that aspect? Now, in terms of your relationships and social life, did you make new friends this year, or have you kept in touch with your friends and loved ones? And then, of course, your physical health. Did you lose weight? Did you gain muscles? Ako, I'm guilty, I have not lost weight. Although, isa sa mga targets ko earlier this year. And then, um, no, so I've mentioned your personal finance, your intellectual and mental development, and then your physical development. Now, we also need to look at your spirituality. I mean, even if you're not religious or whatever, no, or you may even be an atheist, but I still think that there's still some room for spirituality. So, are you devoting time to nurture your spirit? Are you nurturing your faith? So, are you going to church or meeting with people for support group, diba? So those are really, really important ways to nurture your spirit. And then, you just need to look at these different areas to look for accomplishments, no? So, mental and intellectual development, your physical health, your personal finance, your spirituality, and of course, your social life and relationships. Mahalaga lahat yon. So, what have you accomplished in terms of those areas? Number 3 question that you need to ask to evaluate your year. What mistakes have you made this year? Did you take note of the lessons learned from those mistakes? Lahat naman tayo, no, we have mistakes, and it's part of our lives and our career. So, some mistakes medyo mas serious than others, ano? Yung ibang mga mistake, pwede kang makulong. Like, halimbawa na, you stole some money or some property from your company, no? That's a very, very serious mistake and something na baka pagsisihan mo talaga, no? But in terms of mistakes, halimbawa na you missed a deadline or meron ka dapat sinabihan pero you failed to do it. Meron kang target but you failed to hit that target. So, in terms of those mistakes, what caused those mistakes? Is it something internal? Is it because of some personality quirk that you have, some mistakes, some issue na you're trying to resolve within yourself? Or is it because you are overloaded and you're operating beyond your present capacity? In 2013, I think that I operated well beyond my capacity. That's why nagkaroon ako ng several commitments that really fell off. I mean, fell through the cracks. Ibig sabihin, I committed but I wasn't able to deliver. And sa totoo lang, it affected some relationships, we don't have time to delve into those mistakes that I made last year, but stay tuned sa blog. I might be able to write about those and some of the lessons that I learned, which I applied this year. So that's why I read so many books on managing time and priorities this year, kasi kailangan ko talaga yan. But I carried that from last year, no? So, if you look at your mistakes, did you take note of the lessons you learned from these mistakes? Kasi even if you commit mistakes, but you also take note of the lessons, that's well and good. Kasi ibig sabihin na the chance of you committing the same mistake next year is, medyo mas maliit na yung chance that you will repeat the same mistake, di ba? So, ito na yung next na question. And this one is our 4th question. What are the highlights of each month of 2014? Actually, this is related to our previous 2 questions, yung accomplishments and your mistakes. So, I have a downloadable spreadsheet at the website. Just go to pinoyyuppie.com/039. I have a request for you. Meron doon na for each month, naka-highlight doon January up to December. What I'd like you to do is to identify all your accomplishments for each month of this year. So, dun sa column right after the months, just write your accomplishments or your victories or your successes or wins per month. I'm sure na bawat month ay may highlight for you. So, like for me, I would just like to run through yung mga naging accomplishments ko this year. This is not to brag but to give you some ideas on how you can also accomplish this form. In January, ang highlight ng aking ng January, I launched the Happy Yuppie podcast. And so it's almost the end of the year and we are on our 39th episode. So, ibig sabihin, we kept producing content, no? But the highlight is in January because I decided to launch this podcast. Nung February naman, I visited Cambodia and Laos. So, nakita ko ang Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. It's so beautiful, no? Sayang nga lang because this is a work-related trip at nag-side trip lang kami sa Angkor Wat nung boss ko. Sayang hindi ko nadala yung aking mag-ina. But still, it's a big highlight for me. March was a pretty silent month for me, but I got invited to be a part of a Christian NGO. They needed some help for their social media campaigns and all that, and engaging in young people. But sadly, I learned my lesson in 2013. So instead of me committing, I just said, I'm sorry, but my plate is full. In April, ito naman yung big highlight. I attended iBlog 10 and I met several bloggers. I also met Mr. Sonny Santos of cyberbullying.ph and asked Sonny that info. At ang interesting dito is that I was able to connect with him and talk with him, and the result is that na-interview ko siya dito sa ating podcast for one episode. I can't remember the exact episode now, but it will be at the show notes. And then in May, my book, Start Up, Find Your Place, Engage the World, and Sustain Your Life, got published by Discipleship Resources Philippines, no? And then in June was a pretty busy month because I was on hindi naman frantic, no, pero I was helping coordinate and prepare this international event in July, and that leads me to July. No, we here in the Philippines, we hosted the Global Young People's Convocation and Legislative Assembly. It's an international gathering of United Methodist youth and young adult leaders from all over the world. At ito, dude, binagyo kami sa Tagaytay. Grabe. It was it was almost a nightmare, but thankfully we managed to solve that, ano? I had an excellent team, which was really great. And then in August, it was another silent month for me, but I took some rest after all the busyness of July. And then nung September, I launched another book, super epic. My Powers Got to Be Super Epic. This one it's published by OMF Literature. And then nung October, I had an event. It's the Young Leaders Summit, which gathered naman United Methodist youth and young adult leaders from all over the Philippines. And then this November, we had the formal launch of Startup, Find Your Place, Engage the World, and Sustain Your Life at OMF Lit Bookshop in Mandaluyong. So you see, I had a very full month. I had a very full year, not just month, no? So, ito yun. I think one of the big lessons that I learned from 2013 is that to really manage my priorities. And compared nung 2013 where I had maybe 3 commitments na hindi nag-work out, this year, before hindi mag-work out yung isang commitment, I just said no. Although meron pa rin, I think one of the mistakes and some of the cracks, I would say cracks that na nakita ko in this year, probably it may fall under the mistakes or not exactly failures, pero more like cracks. Ito yung I was a little too busy na medyo napabayaan ko yung isa sa mga commitment ko, and I had a radio program. No, not exactly a radio program because I'm not mainstay there, but I'm a co-host, pero maraming times na naging absent ako because I was a little too busy. So, in your case naman, I would ask you, dun sa column next dun sa wins, successes, and accomplishments, I would like you to list down whatever mistakes, whatever failures, or near mistakes that you experienced per month, no? That will also give you a good idea kung ano yung mga super busy months mo, ano yung mga silent months mo, and where you can take some rest this coming year. Okay, so based on the mistakes that you have listed and also the accomplishments and successes that you listed, I also want you to ask yourself about your habits. ito no, itong next two questions natin ay related sa habits. The first, no, so the fifth question, it's what habits do you need to replace? So ito no, we are already leading towards your planning time for next year. So what habits do you need to replace? So, habits are really very important. So, I can't remember if it was Aristotle who said this, that you are what you repeatedly do. No? Because habits can take you up the ladder or bring you down. So, ano ba yung mga habits that your colleagues hate, that your loved one hates, at yung kung ano yung ayaw sa'yo ng mga office mates mo. I'm talking about habits, ha, hindi ugali. Because do you show some tardiness at work? Medyo sloppy ka ba magtrabaho? Medyo do you handle meetings badly, or do you have bad financial management skills and habits? Now, yes mo if these habits are hurting you, because chances are if you have habits that are hurting you, you really need to work on replacing those habits. Come to think of it, I said replace those habits. I didn't say that remove those habits, because habits can only be successfully removed if you replace them with good habits, no? We will have an episode on habit before this year ends. Just wait for that. Kasi I think I want to read yung The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's a very, very helpful book based on the reviews I've encountered. I already have the book now, but I will definitely share with you the lessons that I will learn from that book. Okay? And then our last question for you to evaluate this year, it's this. What habits do you need to cultivate? Kasi if you identify the good habits that you need to have, kaso wala pa yun sa'yo ngayon, you really need to work hard on cultivating those habits. And how can you identify yung mga habits na yun? Well, for one, go back to your successes and your mistakes. What habits helped you achieve your accomplishments this year? Is it something about continuous learning? Kasi mahilig kang magbasa? Kasi mahilig kang makipag-connect sa ibang mga tao? Mahilig kang magtanong? So, continue doing those habits that you think are helping you out. And then, here's another trick that I want you to do. Observe the senior managers in your organization. Hindi lang yung senior managers, even your team leaders, your supervisors, your managers, no? If you have any opportunity to speak with them and learn from them, I mean, grab it, 'di ba? Kahit simpleng kape-kape lang 'yan, tapos you talk about office stuff. I mean, get a little bit personal. Ask them about their habits, ask them about the books that they read, and then observe mo rin yung habits ng mga boss ninyo, mga higher ups, no? It may be a little bit difficult kasi baka medyo inaccessible sila, no? So, look at simple things like how do they dress up? So, how do they deal with people? Are they sociable? Approachable? Paano sila nagsasalita in public? So, take notice of those habits that they have. And tignan mo rin, you can also read the biographies of people that you want to emulate, no? One of the books that I've read probably in the past 3 to 5 years, yung book about John Gokongwei Jr. And I'm sure it's already available at the website. I will post the link in the show notes, no? But it definitely helped me think about my own career and my own growth. So, ayun you really need to think about your habits, especially as we move to the next year. So, I would just like to repeat all the questions that I've asked you in this episode. The first one, did you meet expectations? Secondly, what have you accomplished this year? Pangatlo, what mistakes did you make this year, and what lessons did you learn from those mistakes? Number 3, what are the highlights of each month of 2014? No, actually that was the number 4, What are the highlights of each month of 2014? Question number 5, what habits do you need to replace? And number 6, what habits do you need to cultivate? So, given these questions that I'm asking you, I'm sure na you can already have a good idea of your year, how it went, and how you can plan for improvement for the coming year. Sobrang halaga ng evaluation, lalong-lalo na for us career people. So, I really suggest that you take note of these questions, and next week, we will talk about how to plan for 2015. So, ito na, no? Long before the New Year's resolution time, we really need to start working on our plans for next year. So, yan ang pag-usapan natin next week. It's gonna be a solo episode too, but don't worry. I will also provide you with show notes and some forms and some spreadsheets that can help you out in planning for the coming year. Okay, so if you found this episode helpful, I would really appreciate an honest feedback and review at pinoyyuppie.com/Stitcher if you are an Android user, or pinoyyuppie.com/iTunes. By the way, no, I am giving away 3 copies of my book Startup, Find Your Place, Engage the World, and Sustain Your Life. So if you leave a review at either Stitcher or at iTunes, you have an entry to the giveaway. So, ito yon. Startup, Find Your Place, Engage the World, Sustain Your Life. So, ang mechanics nito, just leave a review at Stitcher or at iTunes. So, just go to pinoyyuppie.com/Stitcher or pinoyyuppie.com/iTunes. And you get a chance to win one of 3 copies of my book, Startup. Okay? So, sobrang simple lang. Pagkatapos mong mag-leave ng review, take a snapshot or a screen capture and then send it to me via email. Just send it to mighty@pinoyyuppie.com. So that's mighty@pinoyyuppie.com. So thank you so much for listening. Know that I appreciate you, and thank you for subscribing. Salamat sa support dito sa ating podcast. Until next week, this is Mighty Rasing of the Happy Yuppie Podcast.